Bag. I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and the producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow. I'm trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of our presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. B1 code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. B1AG.
What's going on? What's going on? What is growing on? Welcome to B1AG, Daily Bread Podcast. I'm John Henry Harris, and we also have Farmer Brown, the MC. Here at B1AG, we focus on Black agriculture as it pertains to agricultural production, education, marketing, health, food, nutrition, and economics, all for the Black family and for the Black community. Welcome Black to the garden. Today's discussion is going to center around the census. How many of y'all have had the census come to your home to be counted? If y'all just put it in the chat, put a thumbs up or a thumbs down, a yay or a nay in the comment section of the chat. You know, if you've been ever approached by the census to be counted. But there have been a lot of interesting consequences or results that happen when, if you're not counted by the census. And we're going to talk about that today because it really boils down to how the resources are allocated and distributed amongst the country. So today's story is added up. When the census can't count, we don't count. And basically the story is centered around the fact that in the 2020 census, the Urban Institute has done an analysis of their 2020 census, and it shows that the census may have undercounted some groups, I wonder who, to deprive them of congressional representation and millions of dollars in federal funding over the next decade. And we're going to dive deep into this. Farmer Brown, why can't the census count, man?
Slow and easy is the way I want to love you tonight. A zap. Slow and easy. A slow kill. Death of 1,000 paper cuts. First, I'd just like to say peace to the B1 family. Hope everybody's doing well, staying vigilant in these very interesting times. So you had asked that question earlier, and I don't think I've ever had a discussion with a census tracker. Good morning, sister. Never come to my door. I had actually talked to my mother. You know, she lives in a residential area. I was like, did anybody ever come to your door during this census count? She said nobody came to her door, and we're melanated people. And so I know that's at least two of us that wasn't counted within this census. The census, to me, it's a gift and a curse when you really think about, the experience we've had dealing with the usual suspects. On one end, we know that there are resources allocated to any district based on your representation when you're talking about ethnicity. But then on the flip side, you also put yourself into a database that can be used for other nefarious reasons. Here at B1AG, we like to frame our conversation around agriculture when it comes to the melanated family, what's classified as Black. And the same way this applies to the citizens who are getting undercounted, and then you got the usual suspects who are getting overcounted. The same dynamic exists within agriculture. And so I definitely look forward to deep diving into this discussion and not just pointing out the nefariousness of the usual suspects, but what are some solutions? What are some immediate solutions since we see this slow and easy kicking the can down the road operation that's been going on since the census has existed.
Now, just to give a little background about the census, um, this is what I found. This is a cord I found. I pulled this from the Forbes.com. It says people of color are systematically undercounted. And if we go back to the 1940 census, so this has been going on since 1940, as far as people of color being systematically undercounted. And it says if we go back to the 1940 census, it missed 1 in every 12 Black residents. 1 in every 12 Black residents have been missed. And that goes back to the 1940 census. And of course, and as it says, the census, these numbers, this determines congressional representation, where federal funding for schools, school districts, simple things like trash pickup. This affects everything. This affects the way of life for people in that community. There's a reason why they call them underserved communities, and this census count is one of the main reasons why this community continues to remain underserved, because they're undercounted. They're not counted.
I like to give a disclaimer. So when we have this B1AG conversation, just to be respectful of the family, we like to come with numbers. We have a lot of opinions about what's going on, but we use the numbers because this is what your government, this is what research-based institutions are putting out there as what we'll call truth. And so there is, we've peace to the sister, Lisa Cabrera. She touches on this a lot. And so the recent 2020 census reveals that the melanated, specifically melanated population is growing when it comes to how many children we're having versus the non-melanated community, which is in a serious decline. They're at a negative birth rate, meaning they're having less, they're dying more than they're reproducing themselves, for lack of better words, in real life, when we're dealing with real individuals. But when it comes to the census, and I think you're going to go into this a little later, it's very interesting the areas where it's a lot of what we call white folks, where they're dying off, they're still being overrepresented. So what this means is a group that is declining is still getting counted as more, and this being counted as more is equating to more resources being given to a declining group and resources being taken away from an increasing group. When we have this conversation about agriculture, like I said, let's not deal in conjecture. And so this is according to the American Economic Association. Census information is used by executive branch agencies and Congress to formulate and evaluate national agricultural programs and policy. The U.S. Department of Agriculture and Bureau of Economic Analysis use census data to compile farm sector economic indicators. State and local governments use census data in the development of local agricultural programs. I'm going to skip through this. We'll put this link in the chat. We encourage the family to look at it. Let me digress briefly. And so we've talked about this Farmers of Color Act. We see in recent weeks, they've discussed this $4 billion in the Build Back Better infrastructure plan that has been, oh yeah, we're going to help the Black people. We're going to finally get these Black farmers something, the $4 billion. But when you go to actual policy, I want the family to pay attention to what I'm saying. We're not giving conjecture. To date, program evaluation on policy decisions about underserved, that was the key word in the legislation, underserved. It wasn't for Black, it was underserved. To date, program evaluation on policy decisions about underserved populations of reference, LGBTQ plus, and producers with a disability involved in production agriculture have been limited in scope due to the lack of primary statistics on the prevalence of members of the communities within this sector of the economy. The initial investigation into descriptive statistics concerning the new demographic data will provide a foundation for policy decisions and program evaluation within federal, state, and local governments. Potential outcomes could be revised policy decisions that could provide additional opportunities and identify new programs for producers with a disability to extend their careers on the farm, and producer support to increase prevalence of members of the LGBTQ plus community within the agriculture community. So these weren't my words. Here at B1AG, we're not here about division. We're talking about Black food security, feeding the melanated family. The reason we're bringing this up about the census, because the numbers, how you're represented on people's spreadsheet, is going to make all the difference in the world when your local representatives go before the Congress, go before the executive branch to, how are we going to divvy out these resources? The can keeps getting kicked down the road, family. This is a discussion we got to continuously have. This wasn't just a phenomenon that started yesterday. As Bruh said, this is dated back as far as the 1940s, where, some groups are getting undercounted because this equates to millions of dollars, if not billions. You add this up over decades because, they do the census every 10 years. So it's literally 10 years of resources, 10 years of programming is going to a group that's even overrepresented, and it's not getting to a group that's more represented. And, every generation is going to have to deal with the effects of this. You tell me. I'm glad you bring that up, sister, because we're going to touch on that in a second. Sister Cherry Wildflower says, so now I'm better off being gay or walking with the limp to get some needed resources to feed people. Here at B1AG, like I said, we're not here talking about recreation. We're not here talking about, which side of the bird is for the melanated people. We're looking at how can we best feed ourselves. And so one dynamic that's happened, and I know this professionally, backroom conversations, I won't divulge names, but there's some clearly melanated family. We stay at 12%, but then they'll tell us, oh, you're reproducing like roaches, but we stay at this 12, 13%. It's the most interesting thing, right? But I know some farm families, and it's very disparaging that, okay, I just want to feed people. I want to get my farm operation going. Would it be better for me to identify as just a minority? I'm aware that, I'm according to what we're classified as Black. I hate that word Black, but okay, for the sake of getting this resource, I'll be Black. I'll be African-American. I'll be colored. I'll be Negro. At the time it was Indian. At the time it was indigenous. And so this classification of how we see ourselves changes over time. And though it could be, it's one of those divisive subjects, it has everything to do with how we're represented in resources. And so the sister said, okay, so maybe I'll act like I'm this way or say I'm this way to get some resources. This manifests itself in entertainment. There's some people that understand, okay, I might get a bigger bag if I say that, I do a certain thing in the bedroom. And I want to keep making this disclaimer because we represent a larger network. We're not here to disparage anybody. We're here to look at, now, why is it that the melanated farmers haven't been able to compete in a $1 trillion industry? Why is the melanated farmers who are getting 0.5% of ag revenue, 0.5%, not 5%. If we want to stick with this 12%, 13% demographic representation that we keep getting told, why are we still only getting 0.5% of an industry that feeds everybody? And it was our ancestors, depending on however you look at history, it was our ancestors that built North American agriculture. How is it that we had more of us represented in 1925, and here in 2021, we're still at this 1.4% of a $1 trillion industry? We got to ask some questions, family.
Now, according to the Washington Post, in every census, again, Blacks and Hispanics have been underrepresented. They had a net undercount. Blacks and Hispanics had a net undercount of more than 2.45 and 2.17%, respectively. Children younger than 5 had a net undercount of 4.86%. Renters, which is key as well, because a lot of people of color do rent. Renters were undercounted by 2.13%, and households that included a non-citizen were undercounted by 3.36%, according to the Urban Institute. Now, geographically, it found considerable variation, with the highest undercounts in Mississippi and Texas. 1.3 and 1.28%, while Minnesota's population showed a net overcount of 0.76%. Now, when we talk about this undercount with Texas and Mississippi, let's break it down to dollars. So that error in the undercount with Texas and Mississippi resulted, those differences translate to millions of dollars in federal Medicaid reimbursements, according to the Urban Institute, with Texas losing out on more than $247 million it would have received if all the residents had been counted, and Minnesota receiving more than $156 million more than it would have gotten if other states had fewer undercounts.
So the Vikings got overcounted and the Seminoles and Maroons got undercounted. There was a time where Turtle Island, North America, wasn't broken up into states, and so we're just looking at the optics of this. And then when you think about this, when you think about the groups that filed for reverse racism. Oh wow, that's deep. When we have this discussion, I hate to digress. It makes me think of Jacob and Esau, and giving up your birthright for a bowl of soup. And so what happens is, a lot of times, just to get what's already due to a person, I ain't gonna say we have to, because we always have choices. Many people fall into this situation where you have to claim other than what you are. You know better. You know your Aboriginal, your indigenous roots, but for the sake of so-called political correctness, to get access to these funds, you have to claim yourself as something you're not. There is a divine, not to digress, there is a divine component to this, which to me is the larger component. There's a divine component. So Most High, I know you made me as this, but this system, this wilderness I find myself in, I have to claim myself as something other than what you put me here as, to get something that they took from me. When we have this B1AG conversation, it is solution-based. I think we could talk about how this dynamic is really throwing a lot of things off that have real-world economic implications. But it's like the solution, the immediate, simple, stupid solution is we got to learn to do for self. We have to care about feeding one another when we're having this agricultural conversation, because when it comes to this money game, they're going to keep playing this game until we're just decimated as a people. Until that 1.4% that they keep saying today of agricultural primary operators is down to 0.4%. I can see mathematically, if you understand the trend, okay, y'all keep this game going for another 2 or 3 census counts over the next 30 years, you're not going to have no more melanated farmers according to the way y'all are doing these numbers. And so what does this mean when it comes to allocating resources? Are we going to keep getting these aesthetic victories where, well, you just told me we're going to get $4 billion in debt relief that I didn't get, but because y'all don't know what to call yourselves, you're divided in how to classify yourselves, y'all aren't galvanizing around the bigger picture of, this is the garden. This is the area where we're supposed to have stewardship over. Y'all don't even know how to plant seeds. And so I keep, paper gangsters. I keep playing this paper game as I lull y'all to sleep with these social issues, with these arbitrary issues. And as long as you can't feed yourself, I'm going to keep playing this game. What's my incentive to stop?
It's a dirty game. And it's, what's kind of ironic is the day before this report came out in the Washington Post. The Census released a report on their website saying that the Census Data Equity Initiative, they're announcing that they created the Census Data Equity Initiative for underserved communities. Highlighting tools and data sets available to help federal agencies and other entities identify and equitably distribute resources to underserved communities.
How did that work for the black farmers this year with the Farmers of Color Relief Act? Has anybody gotten any debt relief yet? And debt relief isn't, I'm giving you something to build. Family, we have brought this up. What are some codified things we can do right now? And so we realized that the average melanated family, I think, is almost a penny for every dollar that your white counterpart has. I think the melanated family has like a penny or something. It's something ridiculous. And so when we're looking at a SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, finances isn't going to be our strength. Outside of protesting, outside of us kind of preaching to the choir online, talking about, hey, cut the check. Finances isn't our strength. We do have a genetic strength where we're predispositioned to be able to grow harder. We're able to work harder. We're able to work with less resources. One of our weaknesses is our inability to stop looking for validation outside of ourselves. Our inability to see the value within ourselves, because every other industry, whether you're talking about entertainment, whether you're talking about agriculture, education, medicine, they understand the value of what we as a melanated people bring to the table of humanity. Absolutely. And when we agree to those labels, we agree to play on their basketball court. And when I was a kid, I remember, okay, you come to my basketball court and play. Okay, you just beat me. No, you got to get to 30. Well, I thought we was playing 21. Well, this is my basketball court. If we're playing on my court, we're going to play by my rules. So as a melanated family, how do we change the game? How do we bring the game to our court? Think about it. So we were talking about this, and I got to go back to the elder Neely Fuller. What is the most productive thing you can do to create justice? You're not going to ask somebody who's benefiting off of our division. You're not going to ask them to stop. It's a plan that's worked for them. I can throw a couple of y'all's leaders, or I can make y'all's leaders get in some butter biscuits. This will buy me some more time. I have the people that I'm giving the butter biscuits tell y'all that everything's fine. Oh, the relief is coming. The relief is coming. And so the rest of the population is sitting there starving, stomachs grumbling, waiting on this relief to come. Then next thing you know, 10 years later, new census. Oh, well, it's another group we got to help. We know it's 16 million. Specific number. We know there's 16 million melanated individuals on what will call North America that are food insecure. This isn't, a big part of this is altruism, being your brother's keeper. But we know there's 16 million individuals that aren't getting their daily nutrition of food. We also know that every individual needs 200 square feet of production. That's our annual consumption of production, 200 square feet. When we're thinking about, okay, maybe I'm in a city, I want to grow some food, I want to help. Okay, maybe you contribute to this 200 square feet because you can do it horizontally or vertically. We know that equates, if we want to feed 16 million food insecure melanated family, that's 43,650 square feet per acre. And so total, that's about 3.2 billion acres. And so totally we need about 73,000 acres in production. This is spread out across the country. 73,000 acres. We know as a melanated family right now in North America, agricultural, we have like 4.7 million acres. When it comes to regular real estate, even in urban areas, it's about 7.8 million acres. So saying that to say we have more than enough acreage to feed, just on a rudimentary scale, this 16 million. Out of this 16 million, you're creating jobs, because not only are you producing the food to feed this group that needs the help, you're establishing legitimate, tangible networks. Because one of the things you can sit there and talk all day, we can sit and read books, we can go into debt going to school, or we could really codify around, okay, if we can learn how to feed the people that we know are hungry now, and we all identify, when I say all, just those of us that care, because everybody ain't with it, and that's what it is. But it's a critical mass of us. Once this is brought to our attention, once this seed has been planted, it's a critical mass of us that can each play our role as we recreate this game board to feed this 16 million. And upon being able over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, being able to hit this mark of feeding 16 undernourished, melanated people who are food insecure, we then recreate this agricultural industry on a game board that we created. If we continuously play by the game board that's created for us, we'll by the next 30 years we'll be called something else. Oh, y'all are the purple people. Y'all are the melanoids. Y'all are the aliens. They can call us anything as long as you're on their court. And so as a melanated family, and this is why we talk about learning how to plant seeds. It isn't just about the cute gardening aspect, but any nation, whether you're talking about a sovereign nation or whether you're talking about a nation within a nation, metaphoric or literal, you have to have an agricultural component, because agriculture just isn't the planting. It isn't just the maintaining of your crops. It's literally, okay, once I got this crop up, how am I distributing it? How am I storing it? How am I marketing it? And so saying that to say this 16 million of our own that we know are hungry is the perfect reason to onboard ourselves into this, because we can't afford to keep getting undercounted, family.
When we're undercounted, we don't count. When we're undercounted, we don't get resources. When we're undercounted, we don't get represented across the nation in DC. When we don't get counted, we just don't count. And this is a game, this is a well-known fact. This is also a game that they've been playing for a long time, since the beginning. Justification of spending, allocation of funds, like I said, funding schools, roads, things of that nature. Think about some of our most chocolate cities and think about the roads. How many of y'all have driven through Baltimore? How many of y'all, there's a reason why those roads look like that? How many of y'all are really driven down 8 Mile, 7 Mile road in Detroit? There's a reason why those roads look like that.
It's interesting, the most undercounted are in the Southeast, right?
That's where they know where they're at.
That's the majority where the black farms are. What else do you What else do you know that's going on in the Southeast when it comes to food security?
We are the most food insecure
in the Southeast. So the area that needs the most help is intentionally being undercounted.
And has the most farmers.
And the most arable land to farm. Do you see these dynamics? The paradoxes.
Like, how does that happen? How does that work? It has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. That's why we need to grow this conversation. We need to learn, get back to the basics, y'all. Growing our own food. Make sure that y'all go to healthyblackfood.com. Sign up for the program. Learn how to grow your own food. We meet once outside. You get just signing up for the class. We'll meet once a month for live consultation. You'll get with me and Farmer Brown. We have a class once a month that's associated with this, healthyblackfood.com. And we'll answer any questions that you need to get you through from seed to table. We'll help you make sure that you do reap a bountiful harvest in your yard or wherever your grow operation will be. And also, let's grow this conversation. We need to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Keep those comments coming. We want to hear what you got to say. And we need to make sure that we do grow this conversation. Make sure that you go to YouTube and subscribe to the B1AG Daily Bread podcast. Just type that into your YouTube search bar and subscribe. And make sure that you share this content. There's a lot of changes going on with our food system, and we need to make sure that we are knowledgeable about what's going on with our food system, food security, but also about these men. They're doing some strange things, y'all, with the food, this lab-grown meat and these alternative foods, and, jabby meals may be on the way. Edible mRNA. There's a lot of things that they're doing with the food, and we need to make sure that we need to be aware and also intentful on eating the food that was created for us by the Most High, for our real nutritional value, and also to be really healthy, to make sure that we are healthy and we can mitigate these pre-existing conditions. Because at the end of the day, all these pre-existing conditions are related to the diet and the food that we eat. And as we show, we're not producing this food that we eat. We're not producing the food that we eat. This food that we eat is giving us pre-existing conditions and is killing us. And we're not producing it. So the logical response would be to produce we need to produce our own food to make sure that it's healthy and safe for us for consumption.
The sister Cherry Wildfowler, she's on it this morning. So she said if we're all counted, they just changed the meaning of the count. And that is true. That is true. So once again, as long as we keep playing on that court, we are subject to whatever rules are being made on that court. This is why we stress the B1 algorithm. And, we can't be secretive about it. We have to be very affirmative of this is important. And when we're operating in our divine mission of feeding one another, right? And, not trying to undercut anybody, not trying to exploit anybody, just the divine mission of we want to feed those of us within our family that are hungry. I don't care what ethnic group you come from. If you got a problem with us wanting to feed ourselves, you're ops. You're ops. And that which protects us protects me against whatever you're going to throw. But it's based on us being aligned with what we're here to do. And this is why we stress pushing this B1 algorithm. We understand this isn't a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year mission, family. We understand this census. This is every 10 years. These people think out long term. I'm going to create a problem in year 1, and over 10 years, they're going to be entertained. It's going to be all of these new trends, all of these new news items. They're going to forget about what I did in year 1. So by year 10, they're good for the picking. They're good and ripe. And so we have to have that same mindset. What do they say? Business is war. So when we can identify and understand and internalize the business of feeding ourselves over, what does 2031 look like, family? We see what was thrown at us in 2020 that threw us off. They're talking about all of these different things that have affected the melanated family, from the food, from the supplies that you're able to get, from your accessibility going in different stores and restaurants, depending where you're at. And so are we thinking this out? Okay, the kids that's 5 in 2020, okay, at some point they're going to be 15. And so what do I want a 5-year-old today who's came up, because we see they got a plan for 5-year-olds, right? So what is we as a melanated community prepared to do to make sure these 5-year-olds today are codified, intelligent, knowledgeable, hands-on experience warriors, soldierettes that's going to stick up for the B1 community when it comes to feeding ourselves? So are we planting those seeds today? I ain't gonna lie. My daughter knows how to navigate these smartphones, and she's 2. It's cute. We smile about it, but it's like, but they also know how to garden. Anytime they see garden, water garden. So my kids understand that. And though it's a cute thing now, I understand every year you're going to have to learn a little bit more about this process to where it becomes a part of you. So by the time you're 15, by the time you're 20, by the time you're ready to conduct the work of the family, you have a full holistic concept of what it is we're doing. Feeding people, yes. Feeding them hungry, that is the immediate action item. We want to feed those that's hungry. But this is the business that created civilization, family. This is the business that our ancestors built to make of what we call North America one of the most richest countries ever. We have that potential inside of us. It's to the degree that we reclaim that. It's to the degree that we decide, okay, this board we playing on, it ain't cool. Not gonna keep letting y'all run us around in circles. Avoid these divisions. You be one, I'm be one. You want to eat, I want to eat. You got people you care. Yeah. So once again, it's the critical mass, fam. I don't think there's anything ever in history where you get everybody. I believe in the law of thirds. I believe in also the concept when you think about the Fibonacci, you have to have at least 10% of a thing to create change. Once you get that 10% going, then you move up to that third of the population. And so here at B1AG, we're planting the seed. We're not pie in the sky people. We when it looks at numbers, yeah, it looks disparaging, but we're also aware that we're a great people. This isn't being we're a great people. We're a very resilient people. We have survived some of the worst oppression, some of the worst. These people got a real life biological pesticides going on trying to eradicate our group, and we're still here. We're like roaches. We multiply, right? I'm being funny, but not. And so saying that to say it ain't about getting everybody. It's about Brother Lockridge. I've been pondering on what you said the other day about you trying to show people in your community because you've been able to make this work in your family, and they think you're country. They think you're being weird. It's people like yourself that's just putting in this work. Noah had to keep building this ark. I'm going to keep building it because the storm is going to come. Y'all might be oblivious to it, but as for me and my house, we're going to keep building this ark. The bigger ark that we're talking about is agriculture, a food system that serves the melanated family. Birdman, any kind of weather, whatever y'all want to throw at us, we cool. We can survive it. 3 days, 3 months, whatever. We spent this last X amount of years preparing our young folks to understand the concept of, hey, we're gonna struggle somehow. So it's better you struggle on some land where you're producing something than struggling in a land where somebody's trying to reduce you. It's gonna be a struggle either way. So let's struggle climbing versus just trying to get our heads above water. We have everything we need, and we have everything that these folks is gonna give us.
Add it up. When the census can't count, we don't count. If you have any comments, information, you just want to reach out to us, you can do that at b1aghiphop@gmail.com. Again, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. B1AG Daily Bread Podcast on YouTube. We're going to keep pushing this black algorithm. We're going to keep pushing this black algorithm, and we are fighting against the algorithm because we have to get this word out here. We want to make sure that we are knowledgeable, food secure, and aware of what we are putting into our bodies because it means everything.
Push a black algorithm. Ancestors, they mastered the systems. We raising your bosses, no victims. Planting that knowledge curriculum. Blessing the roots with the nutrients. The darker the berry, black Nubian. Dropping receipts like I'm Julian. The streets with that food like Peruvian. Trapping the merch and the fruits and the veggies. CSA boxes, my package is heavy. Ship across town in the bed of my Chevy. Printing them up, growing hard at that baby. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta scramble. Bet on black farmers and growers, no gamble. Reclaiming our pain cause the game is in shambles. Blessed with that melanin, carry the miracle. Mothers and fathers of civilization. Black to the garden with food cultivation. Building back better through black innovation. B1 community growing the nation. Genetically designed to be the dopest. Open that growth mindset. Codified, now we focus farming on track on track. Be the fam, break bread with them. Pushing that B1AG algorithm. Now, watch me get 'em, watch me get 'em. Pushing that B1AG algorithm. Be the fan, break bread with 'em. Pushing that B1AG algorithm. Now, watch me get 'em, watch me get 'em. Pushing that B1AG algorithm.
There it is. And I just hope y'all, again, did you see the children's faces, the smiles, the way they were bright, happy, see the camaraderie, see the coming togetherness. You know, food is a very sociable thing. You know, it's nourishment, it's something it's a necessity, but it's also a very sociable thing. It brings people together, connects generations. You know, me and Brown, we talk about, our fondest memories are from, centered around food, eating with our grandmother and our grandmother's food, or, my grandfather's barbecue, just the whole family gatherings we have around food. This is where the knowledge and the love and that confidence and, that knowledge, just that knowledge, that intergenerational knowledge is transferred. It's often done over food, So let's make sure that we continue to grow strong, be strong, grow stronger. So Farmer Brown, it's been a great show, bro. Talking about this census, this is how they allocate funds and resources through the census. And we're not being counted. And other people are being overcounted. So we're being underserved while they're getting more than they ever need. And that always seems to be the case. So that's why we need to make sure that we are self-sufficient. And being self-sufficient, it definitely begins with being able to feed yourself. Your ability to feed yourself, recharge yourself, refuel yourself. That is a great power to have. I did not understand that until I went to college. I grew up farming with my grandfather. And for the first time when I got to college, I realized at that moment, growing up, the power in not having a dollar amount assigned to how I'm able to feed myself. Whether we were broke or whether we had a bunch of money, we ate great. We have $0 in the bank. It did not affect the way we eat. We ate. We ate very rich. And that was whether we had a lot of money or no money. Now it's a difference between broke. There's a big difference between being broke and hungry. Broke and hungry breeds desperation. And I can say that my grandfather, in the situation he had us in, we were never desperate. We weren't desperate for a doggone thing. And matter of fact, we was never broke.
Brother Lockridge and Cherry Wildflower having a very dope discussion right now in the chat. And it's just talking about that energy. Where is the outrage? And the word is diffusion. Diffusion. Instead of y'all focusing on something that y'all all have in common, y'all all have to eat, and y'all aren't represented within the producers, I'm gonna have y'all focusing on these social issues. I'm gonna have y'all focusing on these things that trigger your emotions. I'm gonna have you focused on these entertainers. I'm gonna throw a couple of butter biscuits to these people I'm gonna anoint as your community leaders and kick this can down the road for another 10 years. Because my thing about the outrage, anger takes energy. The same amount of anger it would take me running around the block, punching a hole in the wall. If I exert that into producing something, what do we talk about? Energy return on investment. I'm done arguing at these people like, hey, why you keep hitting us? Hey, why you keep hit back? That's a better use of energy. How do you hit back in an industry that's starving you? You hit it back by feeding yourself.
I'm telling you,
family.
When you grow your own food, I'm telling you, like I said, my grandfather was never broke and we were never hungry. I'm telling you, we always, matter of fact, I used to joke and say, like, my family, my granny and my grandfather, they fed more people than McDonald's. And then, you know, my grandfather, I tell you what, my grandfather dropped out of school in the 4th grade, right? He only read 2 things. He read the Bible and the doggone almanac. That's the only 2 things he read. And one thing for sure, you can't never get over on my grandfather, and you could never say he owed you some money.
That's good business.
He used to be like, he's like, you know, my family name, they call me John John. Like, John John. Look, I can't fold my wallet. I can't fold my wallet. So it was stacked with them bills. Couldn't even fold his wallet. And he had pride in that. And it came from him, like me and my grandfather. It was just me and my grandfather. 2 people, mainly him. You know, I was so young, you know, until I got older that I was really to make a real contribution, you know, to what was going on. But he fed literally our entire family and other entire families. You know, I'm just finding out now about how my grandfather would just drop off bushels of produce at people's houses. They didn't ask for it, but my grandfather saw a need. He knew they were hungry, so he just certain people with the excess produce that we had that he'd make sure that he fed people on his own. And that's the nature of the farmer. That's what they do. They feed people. That's their drive. That's their purpose. You know, LeBron will get up there and he'll shoot a doggone 1,000 jump shots a day.
What them jump shots taste like?
But a farmer, they feed people. I'm telling y'all, black to the garden. Let's get black to the basics. And let's make sure that we can feed each other and we all have a seat at that dinner table. And at the end of the day, he said the first book he ever read was the Almanac. There's so much wisdom in that Almanac, man. That Almanac is powerful, bro. And I mean, that's what we really need, like I said, get back to the basics. You know, the Almanac, you know, that's just like, you know, almost, you know, reading the stars. You're reading the stars when you're reading the Almanac. You know, you really getting back in cycle with the natural earth. You know, and that's a power that we've forgotten that we had. Got to learn how to do for self.
I imagine them almanacs is a lot more cost efficient than these $400 textbooks in college.
Trying to tell you. Very. So Farmer Brown, we talked about a lot today. But at the end of the day, it always boils down to one thing. And if you really want to know something, what do the people need to do, Brown?
If you really want to know something, let's get black to the garden. Push that black algorithm. Let's learn how to grow something.
Y'all have a wonderful day. Be fruitful, be loving. You know, just smell a flower today. Touch a plant, talk to a plant. Let the plant talk to you. You know, let's connect with the earth. It's B1AG. I'm John Henry Harris, Farmer Brown MC. Until next time, see you soon. Peace.